February 19th, 2026, was supposed to be just another ordinary winter day in the Ohio Valley, the kind of day when the fields lie dormant under a pale sky, and the only sounds are the distant calls of crows and the crunch of boots on frozen ground. People expected the usual: cold air, maybe a dusting of snow, and the slow, quiet rhythm of a February morning. But as the sun rose, something felt off. Instead of the crisp chill, the air was warm and sticky, clinging to skin and fogging up windows. It was the kind of humidity that belonged to July, not the heart of winter. People stepped outside in their heavy coats, only to find themselves sweating and confused, fanning themselves in disbelief. Overhead, the sky was a strange, hazy, grayish white, as if the world had been painted over with a thin, unsettling wash. Across Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana, people paused in their routines, glancing upward with a sense of unease. It was as if the sky itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. This wasn't normal winter weather. The air felt thick, almost electric, and every breath seemed to carry a charge. The landscape was shrouded in heavy low-hanging clouds that pressed down on the fields and towns, making everything feel smaller, more vulnerable. Weather forecasters, usually calm and reassuring, grew serious on the morning broadcasts. They pointed to swirling patterns on their maps, warning of severe storms and even tornadoes, phenomena almost unheard of in February. The words "tornado watch" flashed across TV screens and smartphones, sending a ripple of disbelief through the region. Tornadoes in winter? Most people couldn't believe it. Neighbors gathered on porches, shaking their heads and checking the date, as if the calendar itself might be wrong. But the sky didn't care about the calendar, and the wind was already beginning to shift. As the day wore on, the wind picked up, rattling windows and bending bare trees. The western horizon darkened to a deep bruised color, tinged with an eerie green that made even the most seasoned farmers uneasy. It was a color that signaled trouble. Phones and TVs buzzed with tornado watch alerts, their shrill tones cutting through the uneasy quiet. The world seemed to hold its breath as the wind howled louder, and people instinctively reached for their loved ones, feeling the tension build. Birds vanished from sight, their feeders swinging empty in the gusts. In schools, teachers calmly led children through tornado drills, the kids crouched in hallways, their laughter replaced by nervous whispers. The routines of the day were interrupted by a growing sense of urgency. At home, families checked flashlights and weather radios, gathering in kitchens and living rooms to review emergency plans. Parents explained the situation to their children, trying to sound calm even as their own nerves frayed. The threat felt real, immediate, and impossible to ignore. The air pressed down, thick and ominous, making every moment feel stretched and heavy. Curtains billowed in the wind, and homeowners watched the sky, searching for any sign of what was coming. The waiting was the hardest part, an anxious pause before the storm. Everyone sensed something big was coming, they just didn't know how bad it would be. Conversations with neighbors turned anxious, and even the most skeptical began to take the warnings seriously. The community felt united by a shared sense of foreboding. By afternoon, the sky's color deepened to an almost unnatural shade, and the first alerts became urgent. Sinkinan, gusam denkurain, Chersir tastam distern binding magibramway. Meteorologists spoke with a new intensity, urging everyone to take shelter and prepare for the worst. People gathered supplies, batteries, water, blankets, and reviewed safety plans, making sure everyone knew where to go if the sirens sounded. The normal routines of the day faded away, replaced by a single focus: staying safe. The sense of anticipation grew unbearable. Every face reflected the same worry, the same silent question: would this be the day everything changed? The Ohio Valley was about to face a storm no one would forget. Playgrounds stood empty, swings creaking in the wind. People hurried to secure their homes, moving vehicles to safer spots, and checking on neighbors. The day's strangeness was only the beginning of what was to come. Soon, the real danger would arrive. The sky would open, and the storm would test the strength of every family, every community. And everyone would remember exactly where they were when it did. By mid-afternoon, the sky changed in a way that made everyone nervous. It was as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The air felt heavy, thick with anticipation, and even the birds seemed to fall silent, sensing the danger that was about to unfold. Neighbors stepped outside, glancing upward with worried eyes, their faces etched with concern as the sky darkened above them. Conversations stopped mid-sentence, replaced by uneasy silence and the distant rumble of thunder. Dark clouds rolled in, swallowing the sun and casting an unnatural shadow over the landscape. The once familiar neighborhood was transformed, bathed in a strange, foreboding twilight. Then, a sickly greenish-yellow light began to glow beneath the clouds, painting everything in an eerie hue. The color was so unnatural, it sent a chill down the spine of anyone who saw it. This haunting shade is a classic warning sign in the Midwest, a signal that a powerful storm, often a tornado, is about to strike. Old-timers say you never forget the first time you see the sky turn green. When people saw the green sky, they didn't hesitate. Doors slammed shut as families rushed indoors, gathering loved ones and pets, and heading for the safest place they could find. The wind picked up, howling like a freight train, bending trees and sending loose debris skittering down the street. Tornado sirens wailed, their urgent cry echoing across towns and farms, warning everyone to take cover. Inside, televisions and radios blared with updates. Meteorologists pointed to radar screens, no longer warning of possible tornadoes but confirming that one was on the ground, moving fast and leaving little time to react. Rain began to fall in heavy sheets, drumming against windows and rooftops. Hailstones, some as big as golf balls, pounded cars and battered roofs, adding to the chaos outside. Families huddled together in basements and closets, pulling blankets and mattresses over their heads, clutching flashlights and radios, and whispering words of comfort to frightened children. The house creaked and groaned as the storm battered it, every gust of wind making the walls shudder and the floor tremble. It felt as if the entire structure was being tested by nature's fury. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then went out completely, plunging everyone into darkness. The only illumination came from the occasional flash of lightning, casting ghostly shadows on the walls. The terrifying sounds outside, howling wind, pounding hail, and the distant roar of the tornado mixed into a symphony of nature's raw power. Each crash and bang made hearts race faster. All anyone could do was wait, huddled together, hoping the storm would pass them by and spare their homes. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as the minutes dragged on. The green sky, the roaring wind, and the relentless sirens marked the arrival of the storm. A moment everyone in tornado country dreads, but knows all too well. It was no longer just a threat on the horizon. The tornado was here, tearing through the landscape with unstoppable force. The only option was to stay safe, hold on to each other and ride out the storm, hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. In moments like these, survival depends on preparation, quick thinking, and a little bit of luck. When the sky turns green, everyone knows it's time to take shelter and hope for tomorrow. What is a tornado? It's a giant, spinning column of air stretching from thundercloud to ground. Tornadoes are among nature's most violent storms, with winds that can exceed 300 miles per hour. They form from supercell thunderstorms, needing warm, moist air below, and cool, dry air above, plus wind shear. This creates a spinning tube of air that can be pulled upright by a strong storm, forming a tornado. Tornadoes can destroy houses, snap trees, and toss cars like toys. Debris becomes dangerous missiles in their path. Sometimes tornadoes are hidden by rain or hail, making them hard to see. That's why it's vital to heed warnings and never try to watch a tornado yourself. The safest place is always indoors, away from windows, in a sturdy shelter. Tornadoes are unpredictable. Respect their power and stay prepared. As the afternoon sky darkened over the Ohio Valley, ominous supercell storms began to gather strength. The air was thick and heavy, charged with anticipation. Suddenly, tornadoes began to touch down, their funnels twisting violently from the clouds above and reaching hungrily toward the earth. This was no ordinary storm. It was a full-scale tornado outbreak, multiple twisters striking in quick succession, each one carving its own path of chaos and destruction across the landscape. The horizon was dotted with swirling columns, a terrifying sight for anyone in their path. The first urgent reports came from east-central Illinois, where a massive funnel cloud descended with alarming speed. Residents watched in disbelief as the sky seemed to open up, unleashing a force of nature that few had ever witnessed so close. The tornado tore across open farmland, flattening crops and tossing farm equipment like toys. Barns and silos crumpled in its wake, and the path of destruction stretched for miles, leaving behind a scarred and battered landscape. Meteorologists scrambled to issue urgent street-by-street warnings. Sirens wailed through small towns, and emergency alerts flashed across TV screens and cell phones. The message was clear and desperate. Take cover now. Every second counted. Outside, the sound was deafening, like a freight train barreling through homes, windows rattling and debris slamming against walls. The wind howled with a fury that shook the very foundations of houses, making it impossible to hear anything else. Families huddled in basements and storm shelters, clutching each other as the house shook and glass shattered above them. The fear was palpable, every second stretching into eternity as they waited for the storm to pass. For some, the terror lasted only seconds. For others, it felt endless. Time seemed to slow as the tornado roared overhead, the world reduced to darkness, noise, and uncertainty. Then, as suddenly as it began, the roar faded. An eerie silence settled over the land, broken only by the distant sound of sirens and the soft patter of debris falling to the ground. People emerged from their shelters to find their neighborhoods unrecognizable, homes destroyed, roofs torn off, streets blocked by fallen trees and debris. The familiar had become foreign in a matter of minutes. The storm had passed, but the journey to recovery was just beginning. Neighbors checked on each other, offering comfort amid the ruins, while first responders rushed in to help those in need. Survivors hugged family members tightly, grateful simply to be alive. Emotional reunions played out amid the debris as people realized the true value of community and connection. In just moments, the tornadoes had changed everything. The landscape was transformed, and the community faced a new reality, one defined by loss, but also by resilience. The days ahead would test the community's strength and resolve. Volunteers poured in, offering food, shelter, and hope to those who had lost everything. Together they began the long process of rebuilding. The worst of the storm was over, but the aftermath was daunting. Overwhelmed residents surveyed the damage, wondering how they would ever recover from such devastation. Yet, even in the face of destruction, hope remained. The focus now shifted to helping each other rebuild, one day, one home, and one act of kindness at a time. One of the first and strongest tornadoes struck near Paxton, Illinois. It began as a slender funnel, quickly growing into a massive wedge tearing through fields. Sirens gave residents precious minutes to reach safety. The tornado hit the southern edge of town, ripping roofs from homes and flattening the high school gym. Power lines fell, and the town plunged into darkness. Families in basements described the experience as terrifying, like being inside a giant blender. When they emerged, many found only foundations left. Miraculously, few were seriously hurt because people took shelter. Neighbors called out, helping each other from the rubble. The tornado destroyed buildings, but not the community's spirit. In the aftermath, people came together, determined to recover. After devastating Illinois, the storm crossed into Indiana, still powerful and ready to spawn more tornadoes. Sirens wailed in towns like Covington and Crawfordsville as warnings spread. A new tornado touched down near Attica, churning across the Wabash River and flattening farms. Barns, silos, and equipment were destroyed in seconds. The tornado narrowly missed larger towns but devastated rural areas. Houses that stood for generations were reduced to rubble. The tornado stayed on the ground for nearly 30 miles before lifting near Lafayette. Roads were blocked, power was out, and many families lost everything. The damage was widespread, but the people were resilient. Now, Indiana faced the same challenge as Illinois: recovery and rebuilding. The storm's path left scars but also stories of survival. In the aftermath, neighbors became heroes. Even before emergency crews arrived, people helped each other out of the rubble. Those with intact homes sheltered families who'd lost everything. Teenagers dug through debris to rescue an elderly couple. Farmers cleared roads so ambulances could reach the hardest-hit areas. Churches and schools opened as shelters, and volunteers brought food, water, and supplies. Local restaurants cooked free meals for victims and workers. Strangers worked side by side, united by the need to help. The tornadoes destroyed buildings, but revealed the true strength of the community. Together, they proved that kindness and cooperation could overcome disaster. The morning after, the sun rose on a changed world. Tornado paths scarred the landscape. Homes and businesses were reduced to debris. Emergency crews and survey teams arrived to assess the damage. The Paxton tornado was rated a violent EF4, with winds over 170 mph. Indiana's was a strong EF3. Cleanup was overwhelming. Months, even years of work ahead. Volunteers helped families search for precious belongings among the wreckage. Every small recovery was a victory. Signs of hope appeared. Paxton Strong and Hoosier Hope. Community meetings began planning for rebuilding. The road ahead was long, but determination grew. People resolved to rebuild, stronger and more united. The storm had tested them, but it hadn't broken their spirit. Together, they would recover and move forward. The tornado outbreak taught everyone the value of being prepared. You can be a weather hero by having a plan and knowing your safe spot at home. Practice safety drills so everyone knows what to do. Keep a weather safety kit with a radio, flashlight, first aid supplies, water and snacks. Know the difference between a tornado watch and a warning. A watch means be ready. A warning means take shelter immediately. Don't wait to see the storm. Go to your safe place right away. Learning about weather can save lives. Being prepared turns fear into action and keeps families safe. When nature shows its power, preparation is your best defense.